Do you wish you could get virtual attendees to turn their cameras on? Is engagement the number one issue on your virtual meetings? Do you want your meeting to be the most engaging virtual meeting? Well, welcome to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. In this podcast, we'll talk to the top people around the world in virtual meetings and give you, the listener, the best ideas to host engaging virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Now, let's welcome your host, the author of the #1 Amazon hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings, John Chen. All right, this is John Chen here with another Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. So excited, so many things going on here. Let's see, and I do have a few messages for all of our new friends that are around here. Hey, if you're watching us on either Facebook, LinkedIn, or one of these other places here, make sure and hit that subscribe, share, like, and comment in here to figure out what's going on. Speaking of which, we were talking about, I got a conference coming up. We have the Engaging Conference October 23rd through 25th, and just because you're one of my listeners, I would love for you to have this ticket. This is a 50% off ticket here to come to the Engaging Virtual Meetings, or the Engaging Conference, where we learn about engagement. Meanwhile, I want to engage with this other person. I met her at one of my NSA or not NSA related meetings. I'm using a new speaker tool for engagement. We're both fans of it, but this guest, she's a wife, mother, 20-year quota crushing sales leader, right? And EmpowerMentor with decades of been there, done that experience. And the favorite part, I love that, let's not do that again, life lessons to share. I really want to know that. And sales continues to, I'll be honest, is sometimes one of my challenges here inside of this business. Let's welcome to the stage the one and only Jennifer Simpson. Hey, Jen.
Hi, John.
How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for the welcome music. That is one of your specialties.
It is. Sometimes we've had dance contests with our guests when they come in and they're like, oh, wow, there's music here. What are you talking about? Oh, my goodness. So, Jennifer, where are you calling in from today, too?
I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, sitting in the middle of the Midwest.
Beautiful. Actually, a lot of my friends are there. I'm going to give a shout out to my friends at Meetings Today magazine. I think their headquarters is in Iowa. So
fantastic.
Yeah. So for my friends who don't know you, Jen, why don't you just take a moment here and introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do in this world?
You bet. So as he said, Jen Simpson. I really am passionate about sales, complex B2B sales. The more complex, the better. I pretty much feel that you need to get to the human, the person behind the persona. And that's what I do. I'm a sales trainer, coach, consultant, and speaker.
And so the key message here, Jen, is I really want to know, how did you get into sales? You know, like sales is still one of those things that doesn't have a quote unquote college degree, although there are a few colleges now that are finally giving degrees in sales. But I know most people in sales have unique paths to get there. How did you get there?
Oh, we're going in the Wayback Machine, aren't we, John?
So at the Wayback Machine, let's go.
The first exposure to sales that I had was in fundraising. So I worked for a private college and I assisted them with their fundraising for donations less than $5,000. And I ran their student call-a-thon program. So I was 21 years old, and running a multi-million-dollar call-a-thon program with these students. And I realized that some of these students were older than I was. But I built the call-a-thon script and I just taught these kids, listen, you're 18 and you're calling an 80-year-old. How are you going to be relevant in an 80-year-old's world? You need to go back and understand what was going on for them when they stepped foot on this campus and get them engaged in a conversation about how much did it cost for them to go to school back in the day? And then inherently, they're going to ask you, well, what's a credit hour cost these days? And all of a sudden we're connecting the dots and we're getting back on the same page. And just taught them how to ask for, hey, will you just pay for one of my classes? And then we start the conversation there. That was my first exposure to sales. I just didn't quite realize it was sales at that point. My first actual sales job was selling billboards, and nobody wakes
Oh,
up wanting to buy a billboard. Let's just get that straight. And it was something where I had to learn why they were buying all those other media outlets instead of a billboard, so that it could be a both and scenario versus a replacement of. So I had to understand television and newspaper and print and magazines and direct mail. And this is over 20 years ago. So this is pre-digital, John. But yeah, you had to know why they were buying everything else to know where you would fit in the mix. And I was so successful that I had my face on a billboard as salesperson of the year for a couple of years in a row. And
wow.
that when I met my husband on the internet, this was Match circa 1.0. I wouldn't tell him what I looked like or what I did for a living. I didn't put my picture out there because I thought that they would connect the dots, and that was kind of creepy. And so when I finally realized that he was a cool guy, I told him which intersection in town to go drive down and look up so that he could see my 48-foot billboard. That was the first exposure my husband ever had to what I look like and what I did for a living.
That's a great story, right? So wait, I made my career in team building. Do you know what geocaching is?
Yes.
Yeah, so geocaching, right, is a high-tech scavenger hunt. It would have been really cool to send him, like, all you do is text him, right, coordinates, and he's got to figure it out, right? And then he goes there and he looks up at the sign, right, and sees you, large.
Yep. My teeth were officially 6 foot wide. Like in this 48-foot billboard, I could lay down in my teeth. Like it was pretty fun. There's pictures to prove it.
Well, dentists, some of my dentist friends would say you have phenomenal teeth. I'm pretty sure, right?
Well, thank you. No
So
braces, el
that's
natural.
wow, super impressive. Okay, well, good. We have Keith Johnson is watching us on Facebook Live. Welcome. We got a few other guests that are around here with us. I love this story, and and so what's the moment that you really kind of knew that sales was your thing? Meaning,
Mm.
like, all right, like I'm trying to think of, like, do I have a sales job? I mean, one of our biggest one is, like, I had a salesperson. She came in. She was a new salesperson. She does have the record still to date for the largest single event sales, and, like, clocked a $200,000 team building event in the Arizona stadium, Chase Stadium,
Wow.
right, with two companies that merger. It's like one of still the best experiences to date. And she loves sales. So I was just kind of curious, do you have that moment when you finally clicked to you going, I think this is what I want to do?
I wish there was some magic moment where you're like, oh, this is what I want to be when I grow up. Like, that's amazing. No, I think at some point when you realize that you got really good instincts, like I started to trust my instincts, and I could start to see that I would see things that the client needed to see, and I could help them connect the dots on that. And then when they start reaching out to you and asking for advice and support on things that weren't even related to the products that you sell, when you get to a trust level and you go to a trusted advisor level, you know that you're making a difference and that you're connecting beyond just selling a product. And I just really appreciated that I was making an impact in these organizations.
Yeah. Yeah. The trusted advisor level. So I want to ask about that. So here in virtual land, one of the things, a third chapter in my book is all about psychological safety, right?
Mm.
Cite Google's research. It's called Google Aristotle. They did 18 months of research about what makes their high performance teams, which is why I read it, because I'm in team building. And they thought it was like, is it the money we pay them, the laptop we give them, the office they give them? And it turns out it's none of those things. They said the number one thing that all the high performing teams at Google had in common was psychological safety, defined as I feel safe to take a risk in front of my teammates. And I would love to hear from you, Jen, like, what do you think you do to create that level of trust with somebody often you don't know?
Mm-hmm. It's displaying your own level of vulnerability. Most people will follow the leader when it comes to if you will, I will. And so a lot of the times you have to take that step of vulnerability. Credibility is earned incrementally, and trust can be transferred from somebody else. So let's say, John, you and I know each other, and you say, Jen, you should totally meet Jim. And you can trust transfer, and I can have a conversation with Jim, and he can sort of take over some of that credibility component because he got it from you, but I still have to earn trust. I still have to earn his trust, even though it was transferred to me. So I think vulnerability, authenticity, your willingness to know their world so well that they're like, hey, if they have a pause, how the hell did she know that moment? Then I'm doing my job.
What is a pause? What do you mean? Say more about what's that? Give me an example of this pause moment.
Okay, so I don't know your world inside and out, but let's say that, there's something about the virtual meeting space that I knew really, really well. And if I'm like, John, does this ever happen? Does that ever occur? Have you ever been in this situation or been faced with this challenge? And you're just like, oh, how did she know that? Like, that's the think like a client muscle. You have to learn how to flex your think like a client muscle, because then the more like aha moments that you can get, that is just one more barrier removed, and they'll let you get sort of into the inner workings of their organization, the more that you can express your understanding of what's going on in their world. That helps with authenticity and vulnerability too.
So can I just share this, that you share many things in common with somebody really, really amazing. Can you guess who?
No, but do tell. This is great.
You share this in common that, do you know the name Elizabeth Gilbert?
Yeah, I've heard the name. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know who she is yet or not?
No.
Okay. Do you remember the book or the movie Eat, Pray, Love?
Yes.
Yeah. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote that. And here's the reason why I talk about it all the time too now. Like, I'm not paid by her or anything like that, but I am a fan because she gave the best virtual keynote in the last 3 years. And
That's awesome.
I mean, just to go back to that, for those who don't know, she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. That sold 16 million books, right? Less than 100 books a year will sell 1 million and more. And during her year, she sold 16, right? So much so that they made a movie about her, and Julia Roberts played her in the movie. And so she gave this keynote and it was so good, right? It was this virtual keynote, and the keynote comes around. Why is it so good? One of the proofs that we had was 38 minutes into a 45-minute keynote. Somebody chats, I feel like I'm having a one-on-one with Elizabeth Gilbert at an Italian cafe.
Mm.
And then I look over at the participants list. There's 650 people on, Jen.
All having me too. Yes, I feel it too.
Right? And so we were like, and she used nothing. She didn't ever once share her screen.
Mm.
And I'm like, how did she do that? And so we went. So me and a dozen of my top friends and facilitators and trainers, we tore apart her keynote. We watched it like over a dozen times, and we were able to identify 8 things. And you just said 3 of them.
Oh, well, thank you. I didn't know I was checking all the boxes. Okay, which 3?
Vulnerability, authenticity, reciprocity. Right? Vulnerability. Like the first 1 minute she's into it, she goes, like, here's Elizabeth Gilbert in the keynote. We have this great intro for her. And the first thing she says is, leans into the camera and she goes, I just want to tell everybody, right? I love this pandemic. I'm in my yoga pants, right? Who's here in your yoga pants right now? And like half of the audience is like, yep, we are. So like vulnerability, right? Number 1. Number 2 is authenticity, right? Jen, this is my favorite quote from her. What's not scary is writing a best-selling book. What's scary is writing the book after the best-selling book. Because then she went back into this, the vulnerability part again and said, like I wrote the whole book and then I didn't give it to my publisher because I didn't believe in the book.
Mm.
The pressure about writing the second book was so big that she wrote something she didn't like. Right? And
Wow.
then the reciprocity part too, then she would do something like she was willing to give these stories of like things that she has done, right? So that you should, in reciprocal, she took a risk is what she was trying to say at these different parts. Like this book was not a magical thing, right? And in little things that she took risks like that. And that's what she was trying to tell you. She was trying to say, all right, believe in your art, do something just for you. And if other people like it, that's cool. But if not, that's cool too. It's like, but be you. That gets right back to authenticity.
I love that.
So there's three things that that's someone that has like these great things in common with you.
Well, thank you, John. Appreciate that.
You're
So
welcome.
what's one of your biggest sales struggles, John? What's something that you
Great.
feel holds you up?
The sales struggles right now is well, kind of you might be solopreneuring a little bit like me, which is we always run into what we call the service sell dilemma, which is when I get busy, I start selling less, right? And then when I'm not busy, then I got to start selling. And even recently, I have this great strategy, which is I have like at least a dozen producers who I could put out all the time. But in the beginning of this year, I did great. Like, Jen, I love this pandemic. Don't get me wrong, because basically I was able to change my business in a year and I was more profitable. I made more revenue and more profit over the last 2 years. But at the beginning of this year, right, something changed. And people finally got off of virtual, right? We all have masks off now. People are getting to go to concerts again. And so the world has changed, even though they've seen the light that virtual is possible. The whole question is, will they stay there or will they come back there in the right moment? So anyway, so I've seen a small, a decline in my business since the beginning of the year. And now I'm back to the part of trying to figure out things like this too. Where do I go for that? And who are the best people to find? So like right now, I'm looking for conference organizers. That's actually why my whole conference is themed around conference summits and masterclasses, because that's one of my best clients. La-di-da. There you go. That's the real truth.
I love it. And that's one of the first things that I challenge people on is, what's your magic client criteria? Are you actually talking to the right people, putting the right prospects in your pipeline? Because there's this nasty little circle between sales and marketing.
Yeah.
And if sales is thought of too much like marketing, you're going to be in trouble. So let me give you this perspective. So marketing is intended to drive inbound leads that sales then converts. That's your circle. Okay. Marketing leads, sales converts. Marketing leads, sales converts. Right. Now, that is being reactive in your sales cycle. That is other people learning about John. Social media does its job. Somebody passes John's name along. Great. All of that brand awareness and marketing is creating a bit of that flywheel for you. Now, sales is truly outbound, not inbound, and it is proactive, not reactive. There's the difference between those two jobs. And so if you're going to do that, then that is John making an effort to get access to those meeting planners and organizers and other individuals who are sitting in the too virtual, too not virtual decision, or do we hybrid, do we not hybrid? Maybe, John, it's not the big conferences that were what COVID needed in the moment. It might have morphed, and what they're challenged with now might be more of an employee training component than it is a let's all gather for our rah-rah convention. It just might be looked at differently now. So getting your magic client criteria clear is huge, but then what messaging is going to matter most to your magic clients? And that's the think like a client muscle that you need to flex. And oftentimes you're going to learn that by working with your existing clients. So when you're saying I service or I sell, use your service time to really master how you're going to sell someone who you want to replicate.
Yeah.
So if you are working with a client and you're like, you know what, I want more of these clients, then you need to reverse engineer what made them such a great client in the first place.
Yeah.
and then go put more of those people in your pipeline using all of the stories and experiences that you learned while you were servicing those clients, and give yourself small little mini goals. Like don't overwhelm yourself. I mean, sometimes I call it a focus five. I just need to focus on putting 5 magic clients into my pipeline. And then every month you can decide, push or pull. I'm either going to keep these 5 and keep working it, or I'm going to take one off and add one. But just start small. Give yourself mini goals. Don't overcomplicate your outreach.
Beautiful. I really love the key messages inside of there too. Like, and like think like a client muscle. I mean, that started from your first place. Even today, I interviewed one of our keynote speakers, Amanda Lee Kaiser, who's elevating engagement in associations. And she says, think about first what your message is, but then go to the other side and say, you got to get in their shoes and say, what do they want to hear? And so she says quite often in associations, like an association, we want to tell you everything. Right. And when you're like a new member, let's say you're a new member at NSA, you just need like 1 to 3 things that are like important to do. Like, I'm a new member. What's the best benefit? What's the one thing that's going to make a difference in my speaker life? Right. So, oh, by the way, side note, Jen, I get to share my win of the week. I am the president-elect of the National Speakers Association Northwest chapter. Right. Oh, let's see.
Congratulations. That's a big deal. Good job.
Look, I got my own applause card. So thank you. And so now I'm thinking, I got to think like that for the next year as a leader of this organization, because one of their goals, of course, is going to try to increase membership. So I appreciate that. You know, I think that's right on the focus 5. Here are 2 other things that I heard. I'd love to see if you have any opinion on. Number 1 was partner strategy. Find the best partners, because like I have a lot of great individual clients, but if they stop, or if they, you know, it's them, and sometimes it was a one-time thing, then it's not correct. But partners have the same clients with the same problems running over, right? Like the number 1 problem we heard too is like the amount of stress that people have in putting on a virtual conference is enormous. Like today, you said your camera didn't work.
It did not.
And like as a speaker, that's like one of the most nerve-wracking things going on. I got 2 minutes before I'm on and my camera is not cooperating. And organizers, while they know what to do in the real world, they have no idea what to do in the virtual world to fix problems. And we do, right? We do stuff all the time. Oh, Jen, have I told you one of my favorite stories yet?
No, go.
So you're talking about like this is how I sell people, is I got to tell a story. This was again, I took tip. That was tip number 4, by the way, from Elizabeth Gilbert, is storytell. And it goes like this. The VP at Microsoft, woman VP, is about to keynote, right? And she's logged in 45 minutes, and all of a sudden on the attendee list, she disappears. She's like, bloop. And I'm like, where did she go? Let's call her Lisa. Where did Lisa go? And so someone goes, I'm on it. So we have speaker buddies for every single person. So they have a liaison. So they end up calling her and they said, oh my God, you're never going to believe this. All the power and internet to my neighborhood was just cut.
Oh.
And they're like, okay, well, what do you have? Like, is your cell phone working? She goes, yeah, my cell phone fully charged. I'm like, that's good. Well, but I got terrible signal. Like I'm only hearing part of your words here. So even her own house doesn't have good cell signal strength.
Oof.
And so she goes, okay, we got 38 minutes before your keynote. Let's go first. So let's solve challenge number 1, right? We have a copy of your slide deck. That's that's one of my top producer tips. I always have a copy of your slide deck. So I said, well, okay, good. We got your slide deck. We're already good with that. Now here's the next thing. So how far do you have to drive to get good cell signal? And she goes, probably 20 minutes. So like, get in your car right now. So she gets in her car, plugs in her phone. She's still on the phone with this other person. When she finally gets good cell signal, she logs back into the meeting with 8 minutes to go.
Woo.
And then she comes in, and luckily she knows her material well enough that she can go and do the whole presentation, just knowing, you know, what slide she's on. If you just said like, what's on the slide. And so we saved this part of the keynote, and she opened with that. She goes, because, you know, this was like 2020. This was like April or May 2020, saying, we never had thought that these are the things that we'd have to deal with, but this is our new reality. And she then admitted, she goes, look, I'm telling you, I'm delivering this keynote from my car while the car is running with the charger on here so we could be here. And he goes, and then she like appreciated the team. She goes, before I even start, I want to thank the team that is producing this meeting, right, for talking me off the ledge and getting me here so I can present to you. And then she went into her keynote.
That's amazing. As a virtual trainer, I was training Southeast Asia. It was 2:00 in the morning. And my second, like I have a massive curved screen. I have a secondary tall screen. I have my laptop. I had my tablet. My phone is set up. Like I've got my facilitator notes. I've got my training curriculum, my PowerPoint, like everything is everywhere. I've got a Google Docs for my tech person in the background. And I lost my second and third screen. I only had my laptop. Like there was just something about my system that wasn't connecting. It's 2:00 in the morning. I was like, how the hell am I going to train on this without all of my screens? And I figured out a way. Like I propped up 2 tablets and I had my phone open, and like you have to pivot. But that's why we tech check with 45 minutes in advance before said training, just to make sure we don't get stuck. But I got my husband out of bed 3:00 in the morning. I was like, you're gonna have to help me fix this. What did I do?
That's commitment. Nobody told you at the wedding ceremony, right? Through good and bad internet.
No, sir. No, sir. It was my docking station is what it was. So all the little USBs that went in the back, my docking station went bad, and I ended up plugging things into my laptop. So we figured it out, but I'll tell you what, I've been there. I've done that. It is no fun.
Jen,
Have
I ever showed you my setup?
Yes, I saw it. I'm jealous of your setup, for the record. Super jealous.
Right, 14 screens here with this, and just saying like, this is the good part. I can lose 2 screens and I'm all right.
Oh, that's amazing. I wish I had my camera back here. I could show you my setup.
I tell you, it's the money camera, Jen. That's what we've called it as producers. It's the money camera. But as a presenter, it's also really useful because some people want to know, how are you being so engaging while you're presenting? So speaking of which, Jen, I would love to know, since I think you use your sales skills, right? Like when you're presenting. So what has to happen for you, Jen, to be really engaged in a virtual meeting, like as an attendee, if you don't mind?
You bet. So first of all, when I'm training and I've got people in different countries all around the world, I need to be able to see them. So we have some rules of engagement. As a facilitator, you definitely want people to have their cameras on, but I want their cameras on because they want to get the best out of the event that they're attending. So I highly encourage cameras on, and I'll be like, listen, like I'm training salespeople. And I'll say, what would it be like if you tried to conduct a sales meeting without the client you wanted to talk to actually like looking at you and engaging with you? Like that makes your job really hard, right? Yes. So does it as a trainer. If I can't see you, it makes it very hard for me to train you at my best capacity. So cameras on, you're not always going to get it. Thank you. Yes, please, please, cameras on, because that's going to make it good for both of us. And then since I have their cameras on, I want to be able to make eye contact as much as humanly possible. There's some software that can help you do that I've put on my computer, especially when I'm running a really big screen. But if I don't have that software running, like I'll grab and their little what do you call it?
Video window.
Their little face box, right? Their little video window, and I'll scroll it right. There's a fancy term and I just forgot it. I'll scroll it right up into where my camera is. And I do my best to do eye contact. I also tell people to hide their non-video participants. So if somebody is not choosing to be on camera, that it doesn't muddy up the waters of who does choose to be on camera.
I agree with that.
And so then I do my best to do anything that I can to artificially get eye contact as much as humanly possible. I'll engage with their names. I'll make sure that they'll rename themselves with the information that I might need in engaging with them. So as an example, more than name. So if I want to know which country that you're in, or which division that you're selling for, if other people might need to know that, if I'm going to put you in breakout rooms that are specific to your training division or your country or whatever, I want that information in the name tile so that I can break out, or my tech team behind the scenes can break people out into the right rooms.
Yeah. Genius.
That's something that I do as well. I think we talked about this in a one-off conversation, but having anything that's not in Zoom that you might need to queue up, like I am sharing my slides when I'm training, but I don't want my conversations with my tech team to be happening in the chat, because that's going to just complicate or confuse whether I'm replying to everyone in the chat. I only want to pay attention to the everyone chat while I'm training. And if people want a one-off conversation, I try to address that during breaks so that I don't miss the one-offs. So I'll build in breaks where I can respond to the one-off requests, but I'll let them know that. So as a facilitator, I'll say, please, please, if you want one-on-one conversations or questions that you want to keep private, I won't be able to respond to them during the training, but I will do my best to engage when we take our breaks. And then I monitor the everything chat. I'll run a Google Doc with my tech team as a side tool, so that they can take notes for me and kind of catch things that I might need to queue in my live coaching. So the Google Docs is a savior because I can't rely on chat. I can't keep the chat scroll going as a facilitator. It's just really, really hard without a second body, sometimes a third body.
Well, if you listen to one of the tips that you haven't said, but you said it implicitly, is never lead a virtual meeting alone.
Never lead.
You got a team, and so you know that Google Doc is like the prompter. Like, let's take Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins gets messages sent to him that only he can see, that the audience can't see, and lots of speakers do it, right? We all have what's called the confidence monitor, because it gives you confidence about what to say next or what to do next. And it's great to have a team behind the scenes. So for instance, especially in a large class, curating the chat so that they just boil the 3 or 4 things, saying, Jen, we want you to really answer these 3 questions, right? There are 100 questions, but we only want you to answer these 3 because they were repeated over and over. There's a theme, right? It's important, right? The client wanted it, whatever. And we do that. We actually use shared docs is something, it's been around forever, but a lot of people misuse them or forgot to use them. We actually do them too. We actually give access to the attendees and let them give them one of our shared docs and say, okay, you're in a breakout with 8 people, right? Like speed write a case study or something. So that's actually one of the exercises I do in my opening class, is write a poem about what you learned. And really the intention for it is to show them that you can use shared documents, because most people start the wrong way, which is they write one line at a time and they suddenly realize they're going to run out of time. If you're really smart, all 8 of you can write lines at the same time. You just learn to collaborate in a new way. And if you do, you can work 8 times faster.
I love it.
Yeah.
I also, my tech person will, like on my notes, she'll delete the notes that I've covered so that I don't even have to scroll. So that literally, to use the whole teleprompter concept, like when I'm running my agenda, like everything that's been covered, whoop, deleted, so that I don't even have to think to scroll on that document. So get somebody who you trust, get a couple of people if you need it, but yes.
I'm not a user yet, but I'm kind of a fan. Have you seen and heard of Session Lab?
No, but tell me more.
Session Lab runs of shows as a browser, and you can share them with other people, and so they can edit them. And so you run a show, you can adjust. Like the way I run a show in Excel, and like I do a bunch of formulas so that I can do things like this segment is 10 minutes. And so while we're planning it out, it will automatically auto adjust all the times. And then I'm like, we're out of time, right? So I got to shorten, that's got to be 8 minutes. And so I don't have to rewrite the whole run of show because it's auto calculating the time. And then it has multiple columns and it says, here's what Jen's doing. Here's what producer's doing. Here's what, chatter is doing, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out.
Session Lab, check that out. Okay, cool. The last part here, Jen, is what do you think is the future of virtual, especially virtual selling? I would love to hear what Jen has to say about virtual and virtual selling.
Oh, I don't think it's going to go away. I only think it's going to get stronger, especially as sales teams have larger territories that they have to manage. And you definitely have to look at different ways that make it enjoyable for both parties. Like definitely, yes, like love. You have to, it's no different than any other sales meeting. You have to give an agenda. Like, here's what I want to accomplish in our time together. Is there anything else that you want to add to the agenda so that you can keep, they know what to expect? For some reason, if we're face to face, we have that kind of mutual agreement that this is how our time together is going to go, but people forget that when they're meeting virtually. So to know that, yeah, we definitely have an agenda of our time together so that everybody can stay engaged, because it's really easy to get distracted.
Yeah, I just got a chance to coach one of they finally took a team dedicated to virtual selling for this product, and I got a chance to coach them and use one of the more advanced tips, which is I call PowerPoint as virtual background, right? Which is some of the things I'm doing here. And it's got to happen, right? Because I mean, one thing, sales is all clocked around the number. And when you can do like 14 to 20 appointments in a day, as opposed to if you're driving, you can maybe get 3 or 4. Right. Now there's different values for each one, but I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure that like when you can double or triple the amount of contacts, you can certainly move the meter on your business. And I think if you run those meetings in a really particular way, I think you can really move the meter. So I don't know if that's at least for me. Like I actually personally think, Jenna, I'm better selling on virtual than I am in person because I've got access to so much stuff, right?
Well, you need to create the context that is virtual or is in person. There is times when in person is key, whether that's a certain stage in your selling process, a certain size of customer, but efficiency is super important. But nobody wants to feel like they're part of your efficiency engine. They don't want to feel like they're one of 14 meetings in that particular day. So you need to make sure that you make them still feel like they're valuable and important part of your day. And, I often coach salespeople, time blocking is something that's not new in sales. If there's a certain time of day where, you're on and you can pay attention and everybody can get your best, then that's when you need to be interacting with client facing first. Use that time first.
Yeah.
And then just don't drain your battery. Like plan so that you can keep recharged, because it is an artificial environment. So yes, exactly. You have to keep your energy up. And that, that's planning time for yourself, stopping to eat, stopping to pee, all the important things.
I think people have learned, hopefully most people have learned what works and doesn't work for them over the last 3 years. And I think that's, if you're a virtual sales manager, I think that's the one thing you really should do. I do love the time blocking part, which is, what's best time for you as well as what's the best time for your clients. Right. So us here on the West Coast, sometimes we need to get up earlier and maybe we might be able to finish earlier if we want to be accessible to our East Coast clients and other types of things of that. Oh, Jen, thank you so much. I love that we discovered we have so much in common. I want you to see, I would definitely want you to come to my conference because I would love some either feedback or I will hope, my hope is that I will blow you away in at least one way during that conference.
I'm sure that you will. And I'm already registered, FYI. So I'll be there.
Well, Jen, we'll close with this. If people only remember one thing from this interview, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
When you're putting yourself out there, whether it's virtually or in person, just put your whole self out there, be vulnerable, be authentic. And when you're virtual, plan and prepare, and the rest will come through. Be planned and prepared. And I think that'll help you with your authenticity and vulnerability shining through.
Thank you so much, Jen. Wise words. In the links in this post is how you can get a hold of Jen. She's on our good friend LinkedIn. Make sure and check out her out there and her stuff that she's posting out there. If it's even 12 times as good as what we've got here, you need to go pay attention to that. Jen, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast.
Thank you, John. And back at you, if you haven't experienced how awesome John is and all the brilliance that comes out of his brain, if his 14 screens doesn't tell you anything, he is the man with the plan. So check John out.
See, reciprocity, and just for that, I'll give the amazed part of that. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye, John. Take care.
All right. Well, this is John Chen, and we've just clocked another episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. By the way, you can subscribe here at engagingvirtualmeetings.online. We just crossed over some great milestones, and we're releasing episodes every single Wednesday. So once you subscribe, you will get a new content every Wednesday, which is amazing. And by the way, if you want to be the next guest here and be a guest on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, all you got to do is click this link, engagingvirtualmeetings.com, and select an interview. Pick an hour out of your day, and you too could be the next guest here on Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Until then, look for all the different ways that you can engage. Listen to the, oh my gosh, the reciprocity and the authenticity. If you want to make more sales, that's what Jen says, and that's what I say. And I say the same thing until I see you next time. We'll see you there. This is John Chen, the author of the Amazon #1 hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings. I personally want to say thank you for listening to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. It is my passion to help you eliminate bad virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so that you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with all of the latest ideas. Hey, I want to meet you. If you want to talk about a virtual meeting challenge, or if you want to be the next guest on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, just go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet. That's engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, MEET, and find your best time to meet up. Thank you, and I look forward to engaging with you online.